There's only one place to start the big news, which broke last week. Barry Hearn OBE stepping down as the PDC chairman after almost 20 years in the role. What legacy does Barry leave?
Where can you start on this? He's overseen and helped guide darts into the mainstream. And it's not just, the growth in prize money in the past 2 decades. And it's not just the globalization of the PDC calendar, although it's after first a regionalization of it, because it was a global calendar to start, but he's concentrated it in the UK and in Europe and then regrew it globally. And that's obviously huge. But even beyond that, that move into the mainstream and the fact that darts is now on television in dozens of countries around the world. The World Championships moved from the Circus Tavern to a huge arena in North London that can seat 3,000 people and sells out every session in a matter of minutes after tickets goes on sale. That shows you what he was able to do and the opportunity he saw to make the sport something more. It's going to be tough to replace him, if not impossible. That said, and I guess we'll get to this later, the PDC, he's left the PDC in a great shape to just keep on moving. And that, I think, is part of his legacy. He didn't just build the sport and then step aside. He built the sport and made sure that it would be in the right hands to keep growing. We'll also add in, this past year, go through the pandemic, a lot has paused and a lot has come to a halt. Darts did for a short while, but he was able to make sure that it, and of course the other sports under Matchroom, were able to get back going. As he said when we had him on last autumn, the PDC had put itself in a position where it could weather a storm. And this past year, it was their turn to take the hit to make sure the players kept getting paid. And that tells you just what kind of financial footing he's put darts in, that they could lose the fans for a year. They could lose a bunch of televised events. But other than a couple Euro tours getting canceled and a few Pro Tours getting canceled, the prize money didn't disappear. Sorry, and one televised event in the Champions League. But for the most part, the prize money was the same. That's because he put it in that position that it could weather the pandemic, unlike many other organizations. And that's because darts now is, in many aspects, mainstream. And that's down to Barry Hearn.
I think you're absolutely spot on. I guess I'm showing my age here, really. But when Barry did become the chairman of the PDC, I was still in primary school, so I didn't really know too much about darts back then. But I was looking back earlier today before we started recording BDO versus the PDC, because back then, 20 years ago, it was still a big rivalry in darts, if you like. I was looking at the prize money, comparing the two, the Lakeside to the PDC one, which was still at the Circus Tavern. And when Barry took over the BDO World Championship, it still had a bigger prize fund. And the next year, the next World Championship that there was in the PDC, they had more prize money than the Lakeside. So I think coming in, Barry knew that one of the big things that he wanted to do was, as you say, increase the prize money and just push darts further forward. And you've only got to look 5 years after he took over and you're comparing the two World Championships. The BDO won £211,000 total prize funds. The PDC won £500,000 and £100,000 for the winner. And fast forward 15 years now, even during this pandemic, as you mentioned, the prize money has still been there in the PDC, and going price start of this year picked up £500,000 for winning the tournament. So it just goes to show what he's done in darts with the PDC over the last 20 years. Go back 20 years, we had the World Championship, World Match Play, World Grand Prix. You look at how many events are now on the calendar, darts on TV every month. Sometimes you look towards the end of the year and we're littered with events during that final 3 months of the year. There's just so much darts, which is great for us as darts fans, for the players that are wanting to earn money and make this a profession for themselves and not have to work anymore. It's given so many people so many opportunities, and there'll be a lot of people that will be always going to be grateful to Barry Hearn for what he's been able to do. Of course, us, when we had the VIP invite, you had the invite and got me in as your plus one, was a great night, and I'm sure he's done that for loads of people, and he's helped loads of people along the way. But yeah, he said as well when he stepped down last week that he wanted to stay on until this pandemic ended, and okay, it's not over yet, but we are starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel, if you like, and we're talking at the end of April next month. We're hoping to have some fans back for the final week of the Premier League. So we're starting to see crowds come back into these events. Hopefully not long after we'll see the crowds go up and we'll be back to where we were before. But it's you just got to tip your hat off to Barry Hearn, because what he's done for darts and the PDC, it's unrivaled really, and he thoroughly deserves his place in the PDC Hall of Fame that he already has, and I'm sure there'll be some other tributes come his way and some other things that he'll get along the way as well for what he's done.